Ross is busy, man, breaking news, traveling all over the place. I think he went to D.C., or I think he might even live in D.C. now that I think about it. Ross, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, I do. I do live in DC, so it was an easy trip for me to Capitol Hill earlier this week.
How was that?
It was fine. Congressional hearings aren't my favorite thing, and a lot of them don't really produce, a whole lot of real news or movement. And this one, I don't think really did. There was nothing really groundbreaking or new. In fact, all this one did for me was kind of show at how divided that Republicans and Democrats are on various issues, and including a college athlete bill.
And I feel like they're just delaying everything. So I want to get into what happened this week, but also earlier today, you had a story break. American Athletic Conference presidents voted today to establish a minimum standard of benefits that schools are required to share with athletes, a new rev share era, $10 million over 3 years, becoming the first conference to make such a move. Talk about the importance of it, Ross.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty important. It's pretty significant, since they are the first league to basically establish a minimum standard that their schools are going to have to spend in this new revenue share era. And so they have to spend at least $10 million over 3 years. That's a cumulative amount over 3 years, and that includes new scholarships that are added as well in all that. But for the most part, it's rev share. It's how much you're sharing with your athletes under the House settlement. So we could see more leagues kind of set this floor, kind of a floor of you have to at least reach this mark. I think we probably will see a couple more leagues do it. Obviously, in the power conferences, there's no reason to do it, right? The power conferences are going to share well above 10 million annually, let alone 3 years. Most of them will probably reach, I would say, I don't know, 30, 40, maybe even 50 of the 70 power conference schools will reach the cap of 20 million in the first year, and it potentially exceed it in other ways. So they don't really need to do it, but it's the group of six in the non-football playing conferences that I think you'll see probably FCS conferences institute something like this as well. To me, the most interesting part is, what happens if a school doesn't meet the requirement of sharing $10 million over 3 years? And the answer, as I wrote in the story, is that that school will be under review. Their membership will be under review. So this sort of lays, I think, the groundwork, or a blueprint, shows a blueprint of kind of how to cure a conference, you might say, and cut out membership potentially, is create these investment standards.
Ross, you have become the woes, the shams of college sports and college football. You're always on top of every story. When you go cover these events and you're out covering the SEC meeting with the Big Ten or whatever the story may be, does it, I don't know if frustrating is the right word, but I feel like a lot of this information, they could figure it out over a cup of coffee, but yet you go to report on it expecting something, and then, all right, well, we talked about it. We'll meet again in 3 months. It's a lot of hurry up and wait.
It is. There's just a lot of talking going on. A lot of these issues, I think, probably more complicated than how they kind of feel on their face. There's just a lot of legal entanglements, rule changes going on. I mean, all the rev share, the direct rev share to athletes, that whole system's going to change in virtually everything about college athletics, and it touches everything. And so there's a lot of legal issues, I think, that are being talked about, and those things just take time. And I think we'll have probably in the next 3 to 6 months, probably by the time football season rolls around, we'll have a lot more answers on the details of the settlement, whether it's going to be approved or not, how schools are going to handle it, what the SEC Big Ten are going to do from the CFP format, and how that's going to look going forward. So we're going to get some answers here hopefully soon.
So you think, the SEC going to 9 games, we'll know that maybe by the time football season rolls around, their future there?
Yeah. I think probably by the spring meetings in May, the SEC spring meetings, that we will probably learn a lot a lot there. The vote might be there, might be just after, or perhaps just before even. So I think probably by July 1, by media days, we'll know if the SEC is moving to a 9th game starting in 2026. And as I wrote about 3 weeks ago, it does seem to be all trending that direction. All these things are kind of related, and again, they're all tethered together, and they're all kind of linked to the revenue share deal with athletes. Everybody needs money to share, right, with athletes, and so the way they're doing that is generating other revenues. And I think one of the ways you generate revenue is, for instance, an extra SEC game. You get more money probably from ESPN. You get more money from season ticket sales, all that stuff. And then that allows you to potentially play a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten, because they're at 9 games right now. So in order to get that done, both have to be at nine conference games, I think, for as far as the fairness kind of aspect. So you create these big matchups with the Big Ten, and that creates more revenue in more kind of TV tonnage for the TV networks. And then again, linked to all this is also the CFP. And if you're assured, guaranteed access, multiple guaranteed access spots into the CFP, it allows you to do all this stuff, because it allows you to lose more games in the regular season, but still get access to the college football playoff.
Ross, am I right? Both the SEC and Big Ten, they're the ones pushing for 14 teams as opposed to the 16 to get that first round bye, or am I kind of interpreting it incorrectly?
Well, I think the main format that's been discussed within the leagues, that was discussed in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago when the ADs jointly met, is a 14-team bracket that has 4 automatic qualifiers for each, the Big Ten and SEC, 2 for the ACC and Big 12 each, 1 for the best group of 5 champion, and then there's 1 at large, probably intended for Notre Dame if they finish high enough in the rankings. So that's the one that's being discussed the most. But the CFP leaders did discuss a 16-team bracket and what that might look like. They've discussed staying at 12 as well. So I think everything is kind of on the table. The main one that's being, I think, internally with the Big Ten especially, but also the SEC is involved in the discussions, is that 14-team one with multiple AQs for a single conference.
Ross, we got about a minute and a half left. This is probably not a fair question to ask, but do you think like a year from now, we're having those same conversations about the guardrails, about NIL and this and that, and because it feels like we're getting closer to that, but I still don't know.
The NIL conversation is probably going to continue for a while, because in addition to the cap that schools can share revenue, they can share up to $20.5 million in year one. You can go above the cap with real NIL deals, but those deals have to make it through a new enforcement entity, a new clearinghouse. And the clearinghouse is going to approve or reject deals based on a fair market value analysis. And that's going to be the subject of a lot of discussion and consternation going forward.
Yeah. Hey, Ross, great stuff. Huge fan of your reporting as always. Thanks for being so accommodating, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you.